Hi everyone. I am just going to do a really mini lecture on our first PowerPoint that I have listed here. It's called the Foundation of Communication. You can at any time go back into the regular PowerPoint and take a look at these slides at your own, at your own pace. But there's just a few things that I wanted to talk about that I thought would just be better to do in this format. Okay, so because I'm doing it this way, I'm probably going to skip over a few things and that's okay. Okay, so here we go. So one of the first things I wanted to mention is, let's think about for yourselves, answer this question: why should I care about communication? Now, obviously, for many of us, it is a required course, so you kind of have to be here, right? But besides that, I want you to think about your own specific goals and what is it that communication can help you with. Now, in addition to your specific goals, here are a few things maybe that you should think about. Okay, so getting the jobs that you want. Now, in this course, we're actually going to be doing resumes, which I love. I love talking about this because it is something that you can use today. And it's not like, let's, read some theoretical something that you don't really feel like you're ever really going to use. And this is something that you can use today. And so I'm very excited that we get to work on resumes and persuasive cover letters and talking about interviewing and all of these things that are just so helpful. So, of course, communication is a big portion of that, and that is one of the things that's going to help you to do to get the job that you want. Getting promoted. Okay, so this is an interesting little piece here. So, if you remember when we talked about when we did our team charters, there was that very first section where I said, talk with each other about what skills that you bring to the table. Now, I know my personal experience and also through watching students in class do this part of the assignment, quite often they have a hard time with this part, with talking about what they're good at. Because often we're told, not to toot our own horns and, you know, don't don't try to talk about yourself like that. But I think it's an okay thing to, of course, be humble, right? Have a fair amount of humility, but honesty also with what you're good at. And being able to express that to other people is a really important thing, especially in the business world. To be able to communicate your competence, right, your actual skills and what you know that your true strengths are, to your boss and to your boss's boss. And I think that's really, really important to put your customers or whoever your clients are at ease. So it can help you in the long run, maybe get promoted or get you the jobs that you want. Um, Providing leadership, being more productive, these are all really important things, right? We think about inspiring others around us, and communication is one of those things that can do that for us and for our teams. Helping to save us money in the long run. When we talk about business, we always say that phrase like time is money. So if you have to redo a project over and over again because there was a communication issue, this is a very common problem. Um, you know, Effective communication can help you eliminate some of those issues. Okay. All right. As I said before, there's a few things I'm going to just kind of fast forward through. Okay, so some of the other things to think about too is communication is important to your career. As maybe you're talking to investors, maybe you're talking to customers, maybe you're talking to your employees or some business partners. These days, a lot of times people are also doing independent contract work. And so, in a way, you also kind of have to, quote unquote, sell your abilities to people in a persuasive manner, right? And when we think about also going into the workforce, what do employers expect? And a lot of times, employers are frustrated at the poor communication skills of new college graduates who haven't learned how to communicate in a professional environment. And I know, for all of you, that will not be the case because we will all be prepared as soon as this class is done. But one of the interesting things, I think it's a quote from your book. It said that the world is full of good accountants and engineers and attorneys, but not all but is not full of good communicators, right? Not all these people are great at communicating. So it's one thing to be good at that hard skill, but in order to have, a way to stand out from your competition, um, is to have great communication skills. So um, that's something to consider as we're going through this course together, that communication, great communication, can really put you well above your peers. Okay, so skipping forward, here's where the book has their definition of communication, right? So the process of transferring information between senders and receivers. And we're going to take a look a little bit more on that here in just a moment. Okay, so here are some tips about what makes communication effective. Effective communication strengthens the connection between a company and its stakeholders. And the stakeholders are people that are affected in some way by a company's actions. So people in the community or other businesses, that sort of thing. And when your communication, unfortunately, sometimes if it breaks down, the results can range from time wasting to like completely tragic. To make your communication efforts as effective as possible, you got to focus on giving practical, factual, concise, clear, and persuasive information. All right, so moving on, here's another element that I really, or piece of this PowerPoint that I really want to drive home is elements of professionalism. When we talk about communication, we communicate in many different ways. So think about every way that you communicate. We communicate a lot, not just through our words, through our intonation, through our volume, but also how we conduct ourselves. So it can be through your body language. It can be through the type of clothes that you wear to meet somebody or to an interview. It's also how you conduct yourself at work or working on a project with somebody, right? So here are some elements of professionalism the book points out, but I think it's really important to think about these things when considering communication and, of course, getting that job that you want. So professionalism is the quality of performing at a high level and conducting yourself with purpose and pride. And I think that's the best way to kind of sum all of this up. It's doing more than the bare minimum, and it's not just like going in and collecting your paycheck and just calling it good, right? It's kind of going above and beyond and really just giving your all to the job. And so some questions to ask yourself, of course, are you conducting yourself currently in a professional manner at school? A lot of times when we're in school, and I know this to be true because I did it myself, when I was in school, I thought, great, these are good things to tuck away for the future. And when I get there to the future, to whatever my awesome new job's going to be, I will totally do these things. But the truth is, you got to start doing them now. So conducting yourself in a professional manner at school starts with, things like being on time with your appointments or with your assignments, communicating in a professional manner with your instructors and with the team members that you have. Many different ways to interpret this, but that's a great question to ask yourself. Am I being professional right now? So 6 distinctive traits of professionalism. The first, of course, is striving to excel, is to be the best. Not settling for okay or mediocre or just satisfactory, but to try to always do your best. Dependability, taking responsibility for your mistakes, right? And I think that's a really hard thing for a lot of people to say, yeah, I screwed up, I made a mistake. But not only just saying that, but also to learn from your mistakes. The third, of course, is to be a team player. In this class, we'll talk a little bit about collaboration. You'll get a chance to work as a team with one another. And I love this idea. I've heard a lot recently, actually on social media, this phrase of community over competition. And I think that's a really wonderful thing to focus on. So community over competition, right? So working together to get something done versus, always, trying to be cutthroat about everything. And to think about making others around you better. I think that's a really wonderful thing to focus on. I think often business gets a bad rap, that business people are always just, out for themselves, just in it for themselves, or just they don't want to help other people. But, truly the businesses that survive and do really well, the people in business that survive and do really well, are those that have great ethical standards and are doing these very things. They are trying to make people around them better. The fourth is respect, right? And we do it here in our discussion boards. We have good business etiquette. We are really polite on and use good good grammar and polite conversation in our discussion boards. But outside, of course, we're talking about good business etiquette, and that's something that we will talk about in this class. And being appropriate and kind and polite in stressful situations. So if anyone's ever done like retail work or customer service work, I mean, you know what I'm talking about, right? Or even like restaurant industry, hospitality. These are the people that are really good at it. So if you've done those kinds of jobs, you know what I'm talking about. To be respectful and politeful even when it's really stressful and you don't feel like being that way. I think that's professionalism. To be clear, communication, of course, as we mentioned before, is a really important business skill that you can develop. And of course, ethics is something that is incredibly important. To be ethical even in the gray situations. We're going to learn about persuasive techniques, and of course, to be careful about your motives and your intent with these persuasive techniques. And also to think about how your message will affect other people's thoughts and actions. I think that's really, really, really important, right? So we're responsible for what we put out into the world. Okay, communication process mentioned in 2 different places here. Here's one way of looking at it, and another one straight from the book here. I think it's fairly straightforward. Of course, the sender has an idea. The idea is turned into a message. You can choose like an image or words, and then you decide to put it like that image or word into something. So I'm putting it into a poster, or I'm making it into a movie, or I'm going to type it into an email, and then I will choose a channel which is appropriate to the medium that I chose. So I'll put my poster into a billboard, or I'll put my movie into television, or I'll put my typed out message into an email sent out through the channel of the internet, and then my audience will hopefully receive the message. Depending on what's going on with that person personally, what's going on in the world, what's going on in the environment, they may or may not receive that message. And so a good thing to remind yourself is if that audience does not receive the message in the way that the sender intended it to be heard, they didn't really communicate. So I think that's a really big thing to take away from all of this, is that if your intended message was not received the way that you intended it to be received, then you did not communicate it effectively. Okay. All right. So I am going to skip over the rest of this. I feel like you can read through this yourself, but those are the main pieces that I really wanted to focus on in our very mini lecture. All right. We'll see you next time.